Which one is easy? Confess or hide? Which one is more important? Money or people? Once upon a time, there was a successful detective. And his name was Husnu. He was working with Riza Daddy and the others in Istanbul. In a quiet, calm day, somebody called Detective Husnu. He thought that his wife Melis was calling at first. But it was somebody else. Someone was telling that there was a murder. Detective Husnu left his office and went to the crime scene. There was a rich man in Ortaköy. Somebody killed this rich man at his house on a rainy day. So, the police officers and Detective Husnu came to that house. They started an investigation to find the murderer. At first, they understood that someone at home killed the rich man. There were 4 people at home when the man was killed. So, they asked some questions to the people one by one. At last, the detective thought about the evidences and found the murderer.
What about you? Can you find the murderer? Then listen, note down and think carefully.
Bidar Agil was the wife of the dead rich man. Detective Husnu asked her some questions.
What were you doing when your husband was killed?
I was sitting in front of the window and reading my magazine in the living room.
Magazine? But you have some eye problems according to the doctor reports.
No, I used my glasses and I read my magazine easily.
When was the last time you saw your husband?
He said, I will drink some coffee. And went to the living room.
What happened then?
I wanted a cup of tea from the cook and then started to read my magazine again.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ziagil.
After that, Detective Husnu started to ask some questions the cook, Samuel.
Where were you when Mr. Ziagil was killed?
I was sleeping in the kitchen.
What time did you prepare tea to Mrs. Ziagil?
I think at about 11:30. I am not sure.
What did you do after you prepared the tea?
I gave the tea to Mrs. Ziagil and I turned back to the kitchen.
Did you see anything suspicious?
I only saw Nihal in front of the living room and she looked nervous.
Okay, thanks, Samail. What were you doing when your father was killed?
I was in my room. I was listening to music.
Are you sure? What were you doing in front of the living room?
I wanted some money from my father and he didn't give me money.
Why did you ask money from your father?
I wanted to buy a present to my fiancé, Behlul.
Did you kill him because of this?
Of course no. I got angry but I didn't kill him. I went my room and watched the people running under the rain front of the house.
We will see.
I said I didn't kill him.
Where were you, Bashir, when Mr. Ziagil was killed?
I was in the garden as usual.
What were you doing in the garden?
I was watering the flowers in the garden. Mr. Ziagil loved that flowers very much.
Don't cry, Bashir. Did you see Mr. Ziagil at home?
No, I didn't even enter into that house.
Thank you, Bashir. Did you find the killer? Who was the killer? I thought about all the evidences and I found the killer of Mr. Ziagil. Now, it's your turn. Look at your notes and think about the questions and answer them carefully. Where was Bidar Ziagil? What was she doing when her husband was killed? Where was Samail? What was she doing in the kitchen when Mr. Ziagil was killed? Did she see anything suspicious? What was Nihal doing? Why did she get angry to her father? Where were Bashir? What was he doing? Did he enter the house?
Did the detective Husnu find the killer? Who was the killer then? At the end of the investigation, the detective Husnu found the guilty at home. After he asked questions to the people, he understood that the killer was
3, 2, 1.
Bashir. How did he understand? It was very simple. On that day, it was raining so heavily that everybody in the town was running away. So, Bashir didn't need to water the flowers. He didn't love Mr. Ziagil because he was very jealous of Nihal. He loves Nihal but Mr. Ziagil led her to engage with her rich cousin Behlul. At first, Bashir didn't want to kill him. He only wanted to steal his money and get married with Nihal as a rich guy. But while he was stealing the money, Mr. Ziagil saw him. So, he killed Mr. Ziagil in the living room. And in the end, Detective Husnu sent him to prison.
What about you? Did you find the murderer?